You're listening to the SoleStrategies podcast hosted by the team here at SoleStrategies. We hope you like the latest episode and thanks for tuning in.
Cool.
We can just chat.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. All right, everybody. Happy to be back. Welcome to our podcast episode. I'm not even sure. We have had so many. Today we have a special guest joining us, and I would love for her to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about who she is and what she's doing.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hi, listeners. My name is Melinda Rasco. I am an anti-oppression activist, pro-Black community organizer, everything Black, Indigenous, and people of color. That is what I'm about, elevating our communities and really doing the work to elevate Black, Indigenous, and women of color inside of running for office. And when I talk about Black, Indigenous, and women of color, that definitely includes transgender and non-binary women. Definitely do not want to exclude my sisters. So I do want to make that explicitly clear that when I'm speaking about women, they're included as well. Doing a lot of work on the ground right now. Can't forget to mention that I'm a vegan. I'm also vegan.
Okay,
I'm very proud of that. Yes. Animal rights activist and organizer. So I do a lot in my day to day. Right now, I'm working on a mayoral campaign. Really excited about that in New York City. The goal is to get my candidate to the win, and to really increase the number of women that we have serving in our electorate, particularly, like I said, Black, Indigenous, and women of color, and making sure that we have a space and our voices are heard, because we know that when we even out that playing field in terms of our electorate, we really get things done. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
No, we're happy to have you. This is going to be a really good conversation.
It is.
Okay, I decided that I'm actually going to turn on my camera because, so I'm going to do that right now.
So then I will turn on my camera too. Oh, yes. Okay. I just threw on my wig, so excuse me, everybody.
Okay, I have on a hat, and
this is what like campaign life like literally looks like. I rushed home for this, so don't be scared. Don't be traumatized, but I'm here. I'm here.
Welcome. Good. Okay, so you bringing up your interests, because I love it. Shout out to the Black women all around the world. We love you. Okay. So this brings me to like one of my first questions. So in this, because we're in a very interesting political climate, right? We've seen like a really big spark in like white supremacy, white nationalism, and just a lot of erasure going on Black and Indigenous and minority voices, women. We got people in Congress, like a few of them in the squad representing us, but where do you see Black women and other women of color fitting into this new climate? Like, do you see it being more difficult for them to get elected? And
right,
what's going on?
Right. So I just want to highlight the fact that we're seeing more of an influx of women saying, look, listen, I'm gonna run. Whether or not I win, the fact that I'm in the race, I have the opportunity to transform the conversation to issues that matter to us. So you weren't hearing at one point in time candidates speaking about Black maternal health. You weren't hearing about issues that really matter and impact, again, Black, Indigenous, and women of color. You also weren't hearing candidates speaking openly about the plight of Black transgender women. Again, they're often left out of the conversation.
That's very true.
Right. So even when and if we do not win, which the goal is always to win, the fact that we can transform the conversation and place our issues at the forefront is huge. So what we're seeing right now is an influx of women who are taking the lead and saying, look, I'm gonna run. And I'm excited about that.
Me too.
What I'm not happy with is that oftentimes, and I'm going to shout out the Democratic Party. I mean, we have to work several times as hard to gain support from the Democratic Party. And that makes it more of a challenge for us, even when we're running against a GOP Republican, right? We have to really prove ourselves before we get that backing. And I kind of feel like that makes it all the more harder for us to run, win, and lead. So what I would like to see is definitely more women taking the lead, but the Democratic Party getting behind us when we do run. Because there's this this questioning of viability and electability, and pretty much relegated to us, Black, Indigenous, and women of color. And I'm just sort of saying to myself, whereas to a white man is automatically granted that, we're not. So that's a hurdle and that's a challenge. And it's also a deterrent for some women. But what makes me happy is the fact that some women are just saying, you know what, I'm going to run and I'm going to run anyway. Where I live in Brooklyn, we have literally so many Black women taking the lead for judicial roles.
I love that.
Often not spoken about, but I'm excited about that. Again, we have an Afro-Latina mayor who's running, or a prospective mayor who's running. We have a Black woman who's running. I mean, it's just, we're changing the landscape, and I'm proud to see that so many of us are just taking the lead. Just saying, you know what, I'm going to run and I'm going to run anyway. And there's coalitions of support behind us when we do run. So I'm excited about that.
I agree. And I think we need that representation. Like here, just in Texas, last night or yesterday, there was a new abortion law passed here in Texas. It's the heartbeat bill, and it passed in Texas. And now women have no access to abortion after 6 weeks. And most women don't even know they're pregnant until they're about 6 weeks pregnant. And even in Texas, so beforehand, the law was that you had to wait until you were 6 weeks to have the abortion, because they would make you say that you got lucky and found out you were pregnant like 4 weeks. Like you just knew you was pregnant. You took the test before you missed your period and you found out you were pregnant. Even to schedule an abortion, they would make you go. And then they told you can't have the abortion until the baby can be seen on the sonogram, which takes about 6 weeks. So, and then they make you wait another 24 hours and then you can have the abortion. Now you can't even have the abortion after 6 weeks. So it pretty much completely eliminates women's access to abortion help. They have zero access to it now. And if you see the picture of the people who were smiling and grinning and voting that act into law, it was our white male. I'm from Dallas, Texas, by the way. So it was our white male governor, who we cannot stand, Greg Abbott. Go to hell.
His name.
You can really go to hell, sir. You really can. And all of his little colleagues who were, guess what? Not a single Black was in the room, and there were hardly any women in the room, and there were no young women in the room at that. So it's just, we're in a point where a lot of the times there are people who are making rules for us and legislating for us who don't have our best interest in mind, who cannot even relate to what our interests are at all, and who are ruling on things that have nothing to do with them anyway. So I think it's really important that we continue to elect more women, more young women, more minority women, because we need those voices. Like seeing that picture of everybody in that picture, I kid you not, was over 70 years old.
See what I mean? They're not even of childbearing age. I mean, not that I'm ageist, I'm definitely not, but I'm just saying, how is this affecting you?
That's what I'm saying. So we're to the point where in a lot of places like Texas, where there's a lot of young progressive women like me, there's a big minority population in Texas, a lot of Hispanics in Texas, a lot of Black people in Texas, and even a lot of just progressive people who have different ideas who are being legislated against by people who don't represent them. And I think it's important that we continue to elect people who can speak for us, not over us, which is basically what's happening now.
Exactly. And that's what we have. A lot of people who are making decisions on our behalf who are not directly impacted by these decisions. So they're making that decision. And then also we have individuals who are making decisions who, I'll use an example on climate justice. They're not going to be here in the next 30, 40, 50 years, right? But many of us, we will be, but they're making decisions on our behalf on essentially our long-term health. These are issues for me. So I'm saying we need to shift the paradigm. We need more younger, more Black people, more Black women, specifically Indigenous women, Latina women, Asian women. I want all of us to have a seat at the table, because right now we don't. I think you and I were conversing. We have no Black women serving in the Senate. Thankfully, Val Deming just announced that she's going to run, but that's not a guarantee. I mean, we're going to do everything that we can to support her.
And Nina Turner's running too. Praise the Lord.
Yeah. So we have women who are running, and I'm excited about that. But the fact that that's not looked at as a national emergency to where people are talking about it, I want to see people in the streets for that. If you want to storm the Capitol, even though I don't condone storming the Capitol, that might be a reason to do so, right? Like, we have no Black women in the Senate. So I mean, that's huge. And these are things that I'm focused on inside of politics and policy, and really elevating women. And it's not just getting us into office, it's also sustaining us there too.
Right.
Because we could just as easily lose our seats, because every 2 to 4, depending on if you're running for Senate, 6 years, there's a new election. And let me just say this, there are certain parties like the GOP who's always strategizing, always fundraising.
And we need more of that in our party. I feel like on the mass scale, the Democratic Party, there's no real agenda, you know, or to be fair, there's an agenda. It's a corporate agenda. There's no people-centered agenda, and that goes for both parties. I feel like we've gotten to a very, very like post-apocalyptic place in politics, because it's like these people are here, we're electing them, and then once they get there, they're not doing anything with that power. And it boggles my mind, because it's like, you at the end of the day are the one that gets to vote and create laws and govern people. Why are you letting a corporation tell you what to do? You're the one with the power. It's so backwards. But that's where we've gotten. We've gotten to the point where elected officials are completely neglecting the needs of their constituents and just aligning themselves with corporations and rich donors. And they have neglected us as people. And I think it's important that, or if it's even possible, for us to get back to a place where government is representing us. And I feel like electing those type of women and those other type of people who care about, you know, these issues, who really want to go into government to make change, is so important that we elect people like that, because we keep electing these people who just are trying to line their pockets and get rich. And we're becoming an underdeveloped nation. Like, we don't even got healthcare. That don't make sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense as one of the wealthiest countries in the entire world that we don't have free healthcare, that we don't have free education, that we have such homelessness in this country. A lot of these issues, it doesn't make sense. And that's because our elected officials are being paid to ignore these issues instead of solving them.
Right. I agree with you 100%. And I'm sort of thinking to myself, the only way, I mean, some of these things, what you just mentioned, many people consider radicalism, right? Healthcare. Housing homeless.
They're right upstairs.
I don't understand that. Like, how is that radical? It's called progress, and we can afford progress as one of the richest countries, if not the most powerful and richest country in the world. So I'm just saying to myself, there should not be homeless. There should not be the levels of mass incarceration that we have across our nation, the disenfranchisement and oppression that's race-based. All these things exist, and I'm just sort of saying to myself, well, I'm looking to do something about it in my lifetime. I'm not going to pass this on to the next generation, because this is not their responsibility. I'm here, I'm alive now, I'm fully capable and able to do something now. And this is what I'm focused on right now at the onset, in the immediate, because so many people are suffering. And I'm just saying to myself, I don't have children yet, but when I finally do decide to bring children into this world, I don't want to bring them into a world filled with chaos and hatred. Right?
Yeah. And it's a scary place we're living in right now. It's very scary. It's very scary. I don't even know if I want to have children anymore, because
sometimes
who knows?
Sometimes I think about that too. I'm just saying to myself, I'm just like, it's so chaotic here. And then my heart goes out to, you know, a lot of the Black mothers, the Black parents who have lost their children due to various forms of race-based violence at the hands of police officers, at the hands of racism. And I'm just sort of saying to myself, I don't want to put myself through that. I don't want to put my children through that. I don't want to put my family through that. So what do I do? right?
Yeah.
So these are things that we have to contend with as Black women that other people of other races do not have to even consider think about inside of having children and starting a family.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think I shared, and I often say this, everything regarding being Black, specifically being Black women, is political. The way we wear our hair, right? The food that we eat, our education, access to healthcare, and that includes abortion and childcare.
Yeah.
Everything is political.
All of it.
All of it. There are laws and legislation. I mean, there's no other race that has laws and legislation.
Hey, you're listening to the SoleStrategies podcast. Take a moment to listen to some of our esteemed champions and their takeaways from the program.
And I'm glad that I was a part of that I had the opportunity to even be involved with that, with some legitimate organizations that help people who want to do right by other people, you know, by communities.
You know, utilize my resources, utilize my networks. This has, the last month, I've had some tremendous things happen.
It's your time to become a leader. Go to SoleStrategies.com to find out more.
Here?
I'm here.
Okay, it froze like you were.
Oh, okay, you froze on my end. So I just kept speaking, but now it's saying my internet is unstable. Why is it that when I get on a Zoom, when I'm doing work, everything is fine. When I'm on a Zoom, internet, you will not defeat us as we're having this conversation.
Important work today, but no, you're absolutely right though. You're speaking facts, and I think we just, like we said, we just need more people. We need better quality. I feel like I'm like torn between like the French Revolution and like, or if it's even possible to change this system, because it's so like the French had it right. The French did what they had to do. I'm not advocating nothing crazy, but I'm just saying they handled that business, because there comes a point in time where you are just sick to death of being oppressed, being neglected, like, and it just becomes, let them eat cake, like.
No, you know? And I'm not about that. It's so funny that you say that, because I'm sort of at a place where when it comes down to racism and various forms of oppression, I'm not greeting people with love, peace, and hugs as you want to kill me. Like, I'm not there.
Like, what can I do?
I'm not there. Because people often say, oh, you know, forgive, you know, pray for them, greet them with love. And I'm just sort of like, no, these people want to kill me, and people that look like me, right? These people want to oppress me using laws and systems that precede me, that precede you, right? Laws and systems to their advantage to eradicate our existence and make it such a challenge that we cannot move forward in terms of social mobility. Why would I want to pray for people like that? Why would I want to greet people with love, peace, and love? No, thank you.
And I would politely tell those people,
I'm coming with pitchforks and I'm ready to fight for my survival. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
And that's where it needs to be, right? Because you have people, like right now, they're trying to do this June 6th investigation right now. And you have these Republicans going up on the stand testifying that this was a peaceful protest. There was no insurrection. And it's like, you really gonna, what they say, feed me shit and call it sugar. Like, I was there. We all saw it.
We all
How are y'all gonna try to rewrite history like this?
After 9/11 that I've ever seen in my lifetime.
They're actively trying to rewrite history and tell us that it was a peaceful. They literally said the
word. Watch. 30 to 40 years from now, we'll more than likely still be alive. We'll still be alive. We're gonna see how they rewrite this and make it seem as though it was a peaceful protest. People advocating. They're gonna make it seem as though they were advocating for an election that was rigged. When in fact that was not the case.
Absolutely not.
And I'm not going to let them write history in terms of that way. My thing is this, the way America was sort of founded. I just think back when I was in grade school, and I'm just sort of thinking about how we needed to water down, or how history was so watered down. And I'm just saying, if it's so uncomfortable for us to teach our kids the real facts of history, that goes to show that there were people who were really oppressed. You don't want to talk about slavery in terms of thievery and rape, right? We don't speak about that, right? That's not what we're taught. there are different forms of oppression that has led this country from where it was to where it is today. And I'm just sort of saying to myself, if we have to water it down so much to the point that it's inappropriate, quote unquote, inappropriate to educate our children on the truth, then that just goes to show that this country is.
It needs a makeover. Exactly. Not even just a makeover. This country needs to be it's a hard fought battle, right? And that's what gets me like discouraged sometimes, but I understand how important the work is, and we still have to work to get these people. The only way it's going to change is to get these people in these positions of power, these people who have the same values, these people that have the real passion and tenacity to fight for this change. That's the only way it's really going to change. But there are so many people that have to be removed, and that's why, you know, working where I work, that's our job, is to like get progressives elected in all of these seats so that we can flip them, because it's a lot of people that just simply have to go.
Yes,
they gotta go.
That's what SoleStrategies does, right?
For sure. We want to replace these incumbents, these hard seats, these seats that have been held by the GOP for years and years and years. It's gonna take a step-by-step remodeling of sorts, swapping out some people and inserting other people, because that's really all we can do at this point, unless we're gonna burn it to the ground and start all over, child.
But in addition to obviously removing those who are definitely ineffective and who are not working toward moving us towards steps of progress, in addition to that, we have to make sure that we're not swapping in one bad apple for another bad apple, right? I'm always focused on electing progressive, forward-thinking, more so Democrats who align with my values. So making sure that I'm contributing money to their campaign. I'm not the wealthiest person, but what I can afford, I'm donating to their campaign.
That $20 here and there helps.
I'm phone banking. When I can text bank, I'm text banking.
Right.
Car writing. If I need to go to that respective state and literally help knock on doors, knowing that I'm making a difference, that is what I'm willing to do, because it's that serious. Because as a Black person, my livelihood is always on the ballot, no matter which state it is. So I don't get the luxury to sit back, again, wishing
and not be politically aware
and not and change. Because that's not how it's going to happen. So when people ask, oh, why are you so concerned with what's going on in Texas or in California or in Florida when you live in New York? These are the reasons why. Because we have legislators who can enact and create laws, who can write, enact, and create laws, and they can pass those pass legislation down to other states, sort of like what we see in Georgia with the voter suppression laws. Now other states are looking to emulate that. So
same with Alabama with the reproductive rights laws. That was in Alabama first, and that sprinkled its way to Texas. So
it's a trickle down effect, and it spreads its way out. It just doesn't. It's not relegated to one state. Because other states say to themselves, okay, if it worked in Texas, then let's try it in Florida. If it worked in Texas and Florida, let's try it here. Let's try it there. And then before you know it, we have a nation of even more oppression. So the progress that we were able to make with little progress is hindered.
And I think that's what's bothering me the most right now. Like, even just seeing how that bill passed and all these other bills, it's like people want us to go backwards in time so bad. Like, why are you so scared of progress? Like, there's nothing wrong with changing for the better, and we have so many people, because, and the hard truth of the matter is, the past was great for them. They had more rights, they were able to do more, they had more dominance over the rest of us, and they missed the 1960s real bad. And they do. They wake up every morning and wanted to click their heels together like Dorothy and go back to 1958. That's what they want. And they're slowly trying to do that legislatively. So I think that's one of the most discouraging things for me that's going on right now in politics. It's like, we made all these progress. We went through 2 waves of the women's rights movement. We got so far ahead for people just to go backwards and repeal everything that we've done. It's like, what's the point of that? Just let it be. We've done this already. We fought for it. Just leave it alone.
The point of that is it's going to always be about preserving levels of white supremacy. So I understand it. So here's what happens. So let's just say this is white people, right? Can you see my hand?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is Black and brown people here.
Mm-hmm.
As long as there's this gap in the middle between where my two hands are, that's great, right? Let's
Right.
maintain that gap in the middle. But as Black and brown people slowly want to inch up, and
Mm-hmm.
if white people aren't moving up and they're staying stagnant, then it's sort of like, whoa. We can't have you inching up too much, because then you're gonna inch up on our progress that we've made, that we've quote unquote worked for, even though that's not necessarily the case.
True.
Instances. So it's sort of like, okay, once you start inching up, then you might either level the playing field, or supersede us. And we can't be underneath you. We need to maintain our supremacy. So that's what's happening. So as we make progress, the gap, the progression gap is lessening, and it's sort of whites, mainly those who want to sort of continue and progress white supremacy, are sort of saying, no, we can't have that. We have to protect and preserve ourselves and our reign and our dominance. And that's what's happening. So every time I think about progression, I'm thinking of it in that sort of sense and that way of thinking. So as long as white people can sort of look down, and that gap is so significant to the point that even if we do move up, meaning Black and brown people, it's sort of like, okay, as long as I can continue to look down on you and look so far down to the point that you're not inching up on my progress, you can make strides. I'll even help you make these strides, so you feel like you're doing something, so you feel empowered. But once you start inching up on where we are, no. We can't have that. So that's one of the ways that I look at white supremacy, and that's what's happening. And that's
100%.
When people say, oh, we've made so much progress, I'm saying, yeah, we've made a little bit too much progress. And that's why you have voter suppression laws that happened in Georgia, because Stacey Abrams and several other primarily Black women were able to come in and say, look, listen, this election was stolen from us in 2018. But we're going to work our behinds off to make sure that in 2020, a Democrat wins the presidency. I'm running for the presidency. Stacey Abrams said, I'm willing to lose the battle, but I'm going to lose the war. She didn't say this outright, but her action said that, right?
Yeah, that's what it proves.
So then when you have a powerful Black woman who is, operating on, I'm not just going to be angry. I'm going to tailor my anger into actions that's going to lead to change. Then white people are sort of saying, And when I say white people, I'm referring to those who want to preserve and protect white supremacy.
Of course. We got our allies.
Right? Yes.
Allies.
I'm talking about you. At all costs. So that's what's happening. That's what we have happening here. And I'm sort of saying to myself, we need to make sure that we adopt that mindset in terms of getting into the mindset of how white supremacists think. Because otherwise, if we don't understand that, then we're going to continue fighting a losing battle. Right?
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to make significant progress, because they're going to always see themselves, because white supremacists, they see themselves as superior. And then we also have to keep in mind that it's not just white supremacists, because most people group them into being overtly racist. But sometimes there are those people, we have to remember this group of people too, those who may not be overtly or even covertly racist, that they can see, but they benefit from white supremacy.
Or they uphold those systems.
And they have been always benefiting from various forms of white supremacy, and they don't see it. So inside of that benefit, now it's sort of like, okay, well, what do you do now? Right? Do I go against a system that has always supported me in some way, or do I completely fight back? And then I'm putting myself in jeopardy. So now we're having a sort of culture shift and culture between those who are saying, you know what, because you have those few who are just saying, you know what, I'm willing to put my supremacy on the line. I acknowledge the fact that I'm either white or white passing, because colorism plays a role in terms of, you have a lot
Let's talk about that, girl. We could do a whole episode on that.
I mean, we could do, you've done an episode?
I'm saying we could do an entire episode.
I mean, I would take part in that. I mean, colorism is a big thing too.
It's a super big thing.
White passing, Black and brown people who sort of benefit from their proximity to whiteness.
Definitely.
And And there's a level of advantages that you gain in a capitalistic race-based society that we have right now.
Yeah.
The closer you are to whiteness, the closer your proximity is to whiteness, the greater
better off you are.
upward mobility you have socially, economically, and every aspect in between. Now, looking at women like us, I mean, we don't have proximity to whiteness. Just looking at us, that does not exist.
It's not a thing.
That's
an chocolate issue.
Colorism is definitely an issue in and of itself, and it plays its role in politics every day.
It does.
But white supremacy is another issue, just talking about that. And I think that when people hear white supremacy, they automatically go to racism. I'm not racist, so I can, or they go to the January 6th, storm of the Capitol, and I get that. That is a level of white supremacy, but sometimes just benefiting from the systems that have existed is pretty much a supremacy that you gained and that you have, that you don't really have control over as a white person, but you benefit from the system because it's sort of inherited down to you based on your family maybe owning slaves at one point in time, if you go back in time, or you having certain advantages that, Amani and I wouldn't even be able to fathom just by being given. Those things don't exist.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I feel like I said a lot. I'm so sorry.
No, you did, but I didn't say nothing wrong. I didn't hear a single lie. I didn't hear one lie. So, okay, I'm gonna give you one last question. So say we win, we're victorious in this next election cycle, we elect all of these wonderful, awesome, beautiful, progressive Black and brown women. They get elected, they're in office. What do they need to give their immediate attention to? What issues do you think they need to tackle first?
One, I would say I want to see our Black, Indigenous, and women of color really forming a strong coalition amongst each other first. Obviously, it's important to tackle the issues, but if we don't have a strong foundation amongst ourselves, then winning is great, but you're not really winning if you're divided. So there needs to be that coalition amongst ourselves saying, look, listen, we're forming a collective sisterhood and we're going to support each other. And inside of supporting each other, we know that at some point in time, we're going to eventually step down or, for whatever reason, the circle of life takes its course. We need to make sure that we have a pipeline of women who are able to take our place. So that's step one, forming a coalition, a real impermeable coalition amongst each other, creating a pipeline, and then addressing some of the most pressing issues that have not been tackled, impacting our women, such as healthcare, economic inequality, jobs, COVID-19, and really work to sort of mend these issues so that then we can, as women nationally, make significant progress. And that's honestly what I would want to see. I think that's one of the things that's most important, because I noticed that as women of color, when we work together, united, and I know that it just sounds so cliche, but it's so true. We are a powerful force and we win.
Amen.
We win, period. So we need to keep with that.
I definitely agree. I agree. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm walking away energized.
Thank you for having me. I'm so grateful. This was a fun conversation. After a long day, I still have another 6 Zooms, but I'm just
oh God, girl.
Back to back. But it's okay.
I got 2 more. So
this is good.
Good.
I'm gonna be on until about 10, 11. But this.
Oh my God. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully you can come back on again and we can talk into.
Please invite me. Yes,
I will, for sure.
Thank you, viewers. Sure. You can connect with me on Twitter at Melinda2K7.
Love you, girl.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.